welcome to Cliffhangers and Cocktails podcast with Amy Sissel.
That's me.
And Shéa McLeod. That's me. USA Today best-selling authors of paranormal women's fiction, among other things. Brought to you by the Caftan Coven.
Welcome to yet another mini-pod where we will be discussing a single topic related to the craft, whether it be craft cocktails, witchcraft, or writing craft. So today, we're doing craft cocktails. It's the fourth episode, really the fourth already?
Yeah,
episode of our series called The Witch's Liquor Cabinet. And today we'll be talking about balancing your sweet, sweet spells with bitters.
Ooh, I like how you did that. That's exactly what I had in my head when I wrote it. So
awesome.
Sweet spells. Well,
I want to tell you a funny story, but I hope okay. So, I was talking about how I didn't have any bitters.
Right.
And that I could maybe think of a past relationship to feel more bitter.
Uh-huh.
And then my husband mentioned something, child support. And he's like, no, too bitter. You ruined my cocktails.
Well, the thing about bitters and cocktails is they are all about balance. You don't want to put too much bitter in your cocktail any more than you want to bring up too much bitter in your memory. So, when I first...
I'm good at creating analogy.
That was an excellent one. That's great. So, you may or may not be familiar with bitters, but it's an ingredient that's kind of overlooked in like cocktail making, a little bit. We're seeing a resurgence of it, but a lot, it's kind of overlooked when you're making cocktails as a spell. Like, you don't really think about the bitters, but the bitters are an important part of spellcraft, just like they're actually kind of an important part of cocktail craft. So,
not about life.
But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, for a long time I didn't use bitters at all. Like, I didn't know what to do with bitters. I'm like, there's a couple cocktails like an old fashioned and stuff that use like Angostura bitters, and so when I finally got down, broke down and bought Angostura bitters, and I'd put them in, but I didn't really know why I was doing it and what's the point, and I kind of made cocktails without bitters. But then I was taking a cocktail class, not a magical cocktail class, but a magically delicious cocktail class. And
just as important.
Just as important. And she talked about bitters. She actually did a really cool thing. She had us make a cocktail and not put the bitters in and taste the cocktail. Then put the bitters in and taste the cocktail. And I could not believe the difference. I mean, because when you add bitters to a cocktail, you're not adding a lot. It's like...
Right. It's drop and fall or whatever.
Yeah, it's like a couple of dashes or whatever. But the impact is enormous as far as the flavor goes. And magically, it can be the same. And we're going to have to talk about whatever it is you're drinking, because that looks pretty. It's a beautiful sort of... Is it orange? It looks orange from my end.
It's kind of a pinky orange color.
Pinky orange? Yeah. Kind of like grapefruit color.
I know. There's no grapefruit harmed in the making of this, though, because I am on mental health meds. And therefore, I can't have
grapefruit, yes.
Please check with your doctor.
Exactly. Bitters add so much subtlety, and they balance the flavor of a cocktail, and you can imbue so much magic into your cocktails and other beverages with bitters.
I'm kind of in your boat in that bitters were not really something that I ever considered. I know they're a primary ingredient in...
Well, old fashions, Manhattans, things like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't drink a lot of whiskey or bourbon drink.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not something that's come up. And people, you'll go to a German restaurant and they'll have all their digestifs.
Yeah.
Because that's basically what bitters are on the wall. And so I've had them and I'm like, gross.
Well,
So I don't really think about it much until we started doing this podcast. And then I got obsessed with the idea. Obsessed with it.
It happens, right? Because in my witchcraft cocktail book by Julia Helena Hadass, yes, there was one of her recipes, I believe it was her version of the aviation cocktail, which is, one of my all-time favorites. It's a 1920s cocktail. It's so fantastic, and she added lavender bitters to her version. And I went, "Oh, wait, there's lavender, and I do like lavender. I know you're not as into
No, I
some of the
like
floral
lavender.
stuff. Do you like
Okay.
in a cocktail?
You know what? I don't think I have done enough experimentation, and this is now homework I am charging
Yeah.
myself.
So they brought a depth to it that was a little different. And so I started adding it like there's a cleansing lemon drop that she has also in the book. And I started making my own version of that and adding a couple of dashes of lavender bitters. And it's not like you get this really kick of lavender. It's super subtle, but it just brings this whole new flavor to it, which is really nice. So,
Well, and I think that was my problem with bitters too. Is all I
yeah,
was familiar with was
yeah,
the Angostura bitters,
right.
and like this has opened my eyes. Like I
Yeah.
just bought a book on bitters, like a whole freaking book about it.
I
And,
love it.
I like placed an order with an Italian company
Oh my
so I could
goodness.
get
You
like
are getting
gentian.
serious.
I haven't had a hobby in so long because of work and
Mhm.
parenting and
And
everything
writing,
else.
yeah.
And now I have time for a hobby. And my
Yay.
hobby is cocktails.
It's a great hobby. If you're not familiar with bitters, you might be wondering, what the heck are you guys talking about? Okay, well,
You may be wondering that a lot when you watch our
I mean,
podcast.
fair, 100% fair. Sometimes I wonder what the heck we're talking about when yeah. Whew. So bitters are highly concentrated, alcohol based, although in these modern times you can buy non-alcoholic versions of bitters.
Just be careful if you need it for sobriety reasons
Right.
and you want to make sure that there's zero alcohol, make sure you check into what you're doing because things only have to be things can still have a percentage of alcohol
Right.
and still be considered non-alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
So
There
just
are,
if it's
yeah,
important for you to have zero alcohol, you need to
right.
definitely check on what you're double check everything.
Yes, double check everything. And then there's a couple, I know there's at least one company that their bitters are definitely zero alcohol. And I'm going to have to look into what that company was. Because now
Bitters
I've
are just
forgotten.
a place to be extra sure
Yeah.
just because it's very difficult to make bitters without alcohol
Right. It is
and
very
make them shelf
difficult.
stable.
That's why typically homemade bitters are used with alcohol because, I mean, that's how it's done. I didn't even attempt to do
You could
non-alcoholic. It
do it
was,
with vinegar, but it changes the whole taste
yeah,
profile.
that ends up more of a shrub, which I'm going to
Mhm.
talk about in another episode. Because shrubs are
Yay!
fun, but they're a very specific thing. And yeah, so if you need zero alcohol, I would actually just recommend buying it from a company that is reliable and that's what they do. I mean, you can fool around, you do you, boo. So basically, they're highly concentrated alcohol-based flavor extracts. Like think of like your vanilla extract, your almond extract. Those are made with alcohol too. Although again, we now have low or no alcohol versions. But they're infused with botanicals like herbs, roots, bark, and fruit. Usually all of them all together.
They all have different places in the
Yep.
formula.
Exactly. They're primarily used in tiny amounts, little dashes, to add complexity and balance to cocktails, like an old fashioned or a Manhattan. And they essentially they act as seasoning for drinks, kind of like an herb or salt is used to season a soup and to bring balance. That's what bitters do for drinks. They cut the sweetness a little bit, they bring balance, they bridge flavors.
They bring balance to the force, Luke.
Exactly. The light side and the dark side of the force are balanced. See, that's the whole problem. There's no bitters. That's why everything's all out of whack.
Man, they wouldn't have needed 9 whole movies plus
I
however
know.
many spin-offs.
If they
Just
had
had some
bitters.
access to gentian root.
The history of bitters is like super interesting. They originated as medicinal tonics. Essentially, I mean, this goes back to like ancient Egypt. They had written documentation that they put herbs and things in wine, but they actually found more recently some like they were able to test some wine like that had leftovers, I guess, or wine dregs inside of some they had been inside like clay pots or whatever, and so they were able to test it, and they were able to actually prove.
We correlated this event of opening ancient medicinal wines
Uh-huh.
and the current timeline. Like,
So basically, okay, so bitters. Okay, we're going to go back to
sorry,
ancient
I'll be
Egypt.
quiet now.
So archaeologists have found papyri dating from about 1850 BC. That's like 4,000 years ago. That contained recipes for concoctions to treat like different ailments that involved wine mixed with herbs. So these are like the earliest direct evidence for a medicinal substance with made of alcohol and herbs. Bitters, essentially. And they were usually called that because they usually had bitter herbs in them. So they had a, well, you've tasted the digestives.
I mean, they're still used widely for that purpose.
Absolutely, and
At least
we're going to
here.
talk about that a little bit. Less here, not here in the States so much, but in other places. But there's a piece of Antiqua
Pottery?
that pottery, thank you, that they discovered called the Abydos jar, which is from 3150 BCE. So that's like even more old than that.
It is even more old.
Yeah, so that's like
It's over 5,000.
5,000 years old. That contain like basically what it had, evaporated, but there were still bits left on the inside of the jar, so they were able to test it. And it was wine mixed with coriander, mint, sage, and pine tree resin.
Oh, that's interesting.
Isn't it? So I'm assuming that was kind of probably the sort of brought the bitterness.
Yeah.
And the use of bitters for medicinal purposes can also be traced back to ancient China. Not really a surprise there. They still, to this day, a lot of Chinese medicine has little tinctures of, medicinal herbs, very similar to bitters. India, Africa, and even ancient Greece.
Cool.
Now, then we get to the Middle Ages, and up until the 19th century, apothecaries, it kind of started with the monks, as most of these things do, but apothecaries would infuse alcohol with spices, barks, and herbs to create tonics for indigestion, inflammation, malaria, and other ailments. Yes, Amy.
Well, a lot of the bittering agents used in modern digestives and bitters is cinchona bark, which
Yes.
is from the fever tree, aka quinine, which
Yeah.
is in tonic water.
Exactly, which is the cure for malaria.
Oh, right. Sorry, I forgot that part was the
Yeah.
connection.
Yes, that's
I got
the
excited
connection.
about gin and
Yeah.
tonic.
But it is, yes, G&T. Yes, so G&T cures malaria, but they didn't have G&T back then, but similar. But yeah, that's why it literally did cure malaria. It did help people with malaria because it had quinine in it.
It was all science.
It's all science, but it was just in its earlier form, and they probably couldn't tell you, oh, there's quinine in this bark, which does this to this disease. They just knew this worked.
And those trees were often called fever trees because of the medicinal use.
Exactly.
And that's my favorite brand of tonic water, is fever tree.
Same. I love Fever Tree tonic water. There are other good tonic waters, but that's my favorite.
So I'll just shut up again for a while. I'm so excited about
You don't have to shut up.
the medieval botany.
Because you're going to go be a medieval botanist and tell us all kinds
Please
of stuff.
see our Beltane episode for my excitement about medieval botany.
So for some early Americans, and by early Americans, I'm talking about the colonists, not the indigenous people. For early Americans, drinking bitters was like a morning ritual. A lot of bars, the pubs would have drams of these little medicinal bitters. little tiny bottles, and then they'd like they usually had Madeira or rum or brandy as like the base alcohol, and then they'd be flavored with juniper, mint, orange peel, spice bush berries, which apparently have a similar flavor to allspice, and artemisia, which we found out is the beautiful name for mugwort. And
Yeah, we're not calling it mugwort
no,
anymore.
it's artemisia. They would go down to the pub in the morning. They'd get their bitters. They'd down their bitters as, I guess, to get their digestion going. But
Would they also put them in alcohol just to make it taste better? So it's just like, oh, I'm going to the pub for my
I'm going to the
morning
pub absolutely
medicine.
because as early as the 18th century, like that's when we have documentation. People seeking a cure started. These were they're kind of nasty tasting, these bitters that they were making back then, and some now.
Well, they're not meant to be.
They're
Well,
not. I mean, they were a medicine. They weren't necessarily
yes.
meant to taste good.
That's why you
Um,
need a spoonful of sugar. Mary Poppins
well,
knew what was on.
she knew what was going on, but these people, sugar was expensive, not easily come by as it is today. So they would go down to the pub and they'd say, "Hey, George." George was running the pub. "George, can you put this bitter into like some whiskey so it'll taste better?" And George was like, dollar signs. And George put the bitters in the whiskey. So by
George
18
was a giver for
George was
science.
a giver. He loved to help his clients. So by 1806, the word cocktail was already in use to describe a mix of spirits, water, sugar, and bitters.
And that's like the beginning of the word cocktail. That's
And
why we're here, y'all.
that's why we're here,
Bitters are
yo.
why you get us.
So there were all kinds of these bitters and they were, all kinds of different companies were, in Europe, here in the U.S., through other parts of the world, were making and selling these bitters. But of course, we had a fun thing here in the U.S. states called prohibition,
Oh, I've never heard of that. I'm not from
right?
the United States.
And what happened was it essentially it pretty much killed off the bitters industry. Only two companies survived in the U.S., Angostura and Peychaud's. And by the time, Prohibition did a lot for the evolution of cocktails as we know them today, but it nearly killed off bitters. And then when it came back and they were able to drink, do normal booze again, people were just kind of not into bitters anymore. And then about 20 years ago, they kind of made a resurgence in popularity. But now it's not for medicine, it's for cocktails. And although there are still plenty of folks who swear a few dashes of bitters in soda water will help settle the stomach, and in Europe,
Those people are my husband.
And in Europe, aperitifs such as Campari and Aperol are popular. These are considered drinking bitters. They literally came out of the same, sort of family tree, if you will, as bitters. They're just more drinkable and diluted, and that's why a lot of times they've got that bitter taste because they've got those same barks in them. And so, the bitters that we're talking about, that we're making, that we're using, are called non-potable because they're too strong to drink on your own. You have to dilute them. Whereas the drinking bitters, like Aperol or whatever, you can just drink them straight. Woohoo! So there's a lot of those, but you also can buy. I think the brand is like Bundaberg or something like that. There's literally there's little shots of digestives, and it's basically
There's I don't know, at these German restaurants that I went to, that I would go to, they'd have the strip of paper hanging behind the bar,
mm-hmm.
and it's like a bandolier of bitters, just
with the little stuck
yeah.
in. Cute.
And then you just pull. I'll post a picture of that for y'all because you need to see a bitters bandolier.
Yeah. So there.
And I kind of
still,
now I'm imagining wearing it around.
They're little shots.
It's for your digestion. Yeah. For your liver.
Absolutely. But the bitters that we're talking about, yes, they do have. They're much more concentrated, and yes, they do have items that have, ingredients that have medicinal benefits, but that's not our primary use of course. Um, so bitters and spells. We're going to talk about what do they have to do with what do bitters have to do with witchcraft and spellcraft?
And I'm excited to learn this part because this is not something I know about.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing a lot of reading about bitters, but not about
Yes. Yeah,
bitter
because
magic.
most of this is kind of almost a new science, if you will. Um, it's it's likely that bitters, the potable bitters, have been used in witchcraft for a long time. I mean, they've been used as medicines. That's part of what witchcraft is about. It's about healing. It's about exactly.
I'm a doctor.
But bitters in spells, the way we're talking about with cocktails, is a fairly new thing. So obviously, bitter herbs have been used for centuries in spiritual practices and cleansing rituals. And they're known for their healing properties. Bitter herbs are known for their ability to transform, to renew energy, and in witchcraft and magical mixology, which is fairly new, cocktail bitters are used as concentrated potions. So think of them as like extra little magic bombs that bridge the gap between, and you're going to love this because I love this, between kitchen witchery and traditional herbalism.
I don't know. I'm connecting dots.
Oh, you're connecting the dots. Okay, I'm like, what is she doing? She's connecting the dots. So, your medieval herbalism, my kitchen witchery, magical cocktail. Because they're made by infusing herbs, roots, and spices in a high-proof alcohol, they act as potent carriers of energy and intention. So they're bringing tons of energy from the ingredients, from the herbs, from the spices, but they're also carrying your intention, especially if you're making them yourself. Much like adding salt to a dish, a few dashes of bitters can act as a final seal on a beverage-based spell. So, yeah.
So Shéa, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Should a witch buy her bitters, or should she make them herself?
You know what? And I'm
Or
going to tell you,
himself?
you've never heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it
Ooh,
right now.
I'm on the seat of my the seat of my pants, the edge of my seat. I'm on the edge of my
Edge of your
seat.
seat. Edge of your seat. There you go. You do you, boo. I know, you've never heard me say that before. You do you, boo.
First time that's been said on the pod.
So here's the thing. The benefit of making your own bitters is that you have absolute total control over the ingredients, over the intention, and over the energy put into your little potion. Not only that, but you can make flavors that aren't necessarily available or available easily in store-bought bitters. I found when I was making bitters, this was my first time making bitters for this episode, and even with my limited spoons, my limited energy, they were incredibly easy to make, like super, super easy. But they do require a lot of different, like little amounts of a lot of different ingredients. And those ingredients aren't always easy to find, or some of them can be kind of expensive. And so particularly since you only need small quantities of like lots of ingredients, but you usually can't just buy a teaspoon or a tablespoon of gentian root or whatever. You have to buy like a whole like bag of it.
50-gram minimum.
Yes. So unless you can forage or you can grow your own, it can become a slightly spendy little hobby here. But if you can't or don't want to make your own, yes, Amy.
But it is, if you do end up making a large batch, because you did end up getting a large batch of ingredients, you're set for gifts for all of your friends
all of
who will
eternity.
drink cocktails forever.
Absolutely. And you can always do, you can always water it down with, and make a more Aperol type drink as well that you can mix with soda water or
You call that potable bitters or something?
Yeah, potable bitters. You could like, if you have a huge batch, but I was able to actually, I found a recipe for just a really small batch, and that's what I made. And I definitely have enough ingredients left to make more more batches of, of things in the future. If you can't or don't want to make your own, store bought is fine. Although you don't have as much control over the ingredients, you know at least the general ingredients that are in there. If you're buying orange bitters, you know the orange is in there. That sort of thing. You can kind of look up online which ingredients are in which types of bitters. And, and then of course you can put your intent into it when you're mixing it with your cocktail. You can even, hold it in your hands when it arrives and put some of your energy into it. And there you go. You've put some of your own energetic energy into it. Energetic energy. Woo!
Well, I would say that if you are going to do store-bought, which,
yeah,
again, totes valid.
Totally legit.
If you have the ability to look for local companies that make them, if this is something that is within your price range and is available locally, I would say that would be the next best thing.
That would be, yes.
Yourself.
Yep.
Because you're going to be able to have that local connection.
Yes.
And it cuts down on a lot of, that's the scientific word. Listen.
Yeah. It reduces your carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of potable...
What's in your glass?
Speaking of potable, this is actually... I'm drinking root beer. Now, this is real root beer. It's not root beer that's just like a root beer flavor, like a lot of modern root beers are. It's real root beer.
You can get a lot of good real root beer in Portland, Oregon. I'm telling you right now. Yes,
you can. Because it's the middle of the day, and we already recorded one episode today. I did not want to drink another cocktail. But since we're not,
I did.
But you know what? You're at 9 at night or something like that. So
Oh, it's after 10 now. So I'm cool.
Everything's cool.
Also, there's a lot of gin in here.
That's hilarious. Yeah, root beer actually it was originally like a health tonic or whatever, and it turned into a drinking soda.
Can I ask a question about root beer that you may or may not know the answer to?
Okay.
Okay, so root beer, obviously, root. It's because it's made from roots.
Right.
And it's brewed similar to beer. I'm just
right.
This is
I think
but
the originally,
there's
yes.
sarsaparilla, right? Sarsaparilla, and they would sell that often at old-timey things that I would go to.
Yeah.
And are they basically the same thing, but sarsaparilla is like the more authentic rooted version, because sarsaparilla root is like the main ingredient in sarsaparilla. And I don't know if that was like the precursor to root beer or if they just have no connection whatsoever. You don't have to know the answer.
No, they are. So I can tell you the answer because
Yay!
I'm going to a site called Bundaberg Brewed Drinks, and they're going to tell us the difference between root beer and sarsaparilla. So aside from the label, there isn't one.
Yes, I knew it. I knew sarsaparilla was the same.
Basically, they're both crafted over 3 days. Now, their particular brand uses licorice root, sarsaparilla root, molasses, and vanilla beans. So it's the sarsaparilla root that is what root beer is made of.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Which is the same as sarsaparilla. So it used to be called sarsaparilla.
God, this is so educational.
Yeah. So, and it does have a lot of benefits. Like when I was doing some research into benefits for my psoriasis, one of the things that sarsaparilla is supposed to help psoriasis, like help reduce the inflammation or whatever. I'm like, bring on the root beer. I don't know that there's enough in modern root beer to actually help sarsaparilla. I mean, to actually help psoriasis, but essentially that's where root beer comes from. So
how will you know if you don't try?
I mean, yes, bring it on. So anyway, yes, it's perfectly valid to buy bitters. I have many bitters that I bought, but I thought it would be fun to try making them. So I made my first batch of and I decided to go with cherry vanilla bitters.
And I'm
Because
so jealous of this right now. You guys, you have no idea how much I want these cherry vanilla bitters.
it is, it sounded delicious. It's not something that's easy to buy, and vanilla. I mean, cherry. I think I could find like cherry bitters, but they were really expensive. So anyway, so I pulled up all sorts of recipes on the internet, and there's like so many recipes just for this alone, and none of them are the same. So I'm not sure you can actually make bitters wrong because there's so many recipes.
I don't think you can. I think there's a formula,
Yeah.
and you just
And
more or less kind of
right.
adhere to it.
You kind of adhere to it, and you kind of, yeah. So
It's half art, half science.
pretty much that's what this is. So one thing most of them had in common was they used wild cherry bark as the bittering agent rather than gentian root, although some of them used both. I just went ahead and used the cherry bark because I love that idea, because on another episode we talked about the properties of cherries and cherry wood. That was such a cool episode,
And it's so magical.
it was really magical. So it's like, so I found the simplest recipe I could find, made a couple of tweaks to suit my purposes, and came up with a recipe. So a lot of the recipes I found were like basically using a whole bottle of like bourbon or vodka or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So this recipe only called for 1 cup, which is like a reasonable amount for doing such a science experiment. I used vodka because that's what I happen to have on hand, although the original recipe called for whiskey or bourbon.
And I think, especially thinking about properties and flavor profiles, I hate bourbon. Bourbon would be so good for this.
It would
just
really be good
because
for
of
this. Yeah.
the way it would work with the cherry
Yeah.
and the vanilla.
But
also, I would never use bourbon.
And the bourbon, we have a really nice bourbon right now that I'm like, I'm not using a cup of this really nice bourbon to make bitters. So I used vodka, and vodka, the thing about vodka is it's great. It's very versatile. It's very neutral. So it called for, I'll put up the recipe in the show notes, but it basically called for tart cherries, sweet cherries. I used frozen that I'd defrosted, a vanilla bean, cardamom pods. I just used ground cardamom because whatever. A star anise, and then some wild cherry bark. The wild cherry bark.
Where did you find your wild cherry bark?
I got it on the big river.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I had no
There's
idea.
a lot of boat trips, y'all.
Yeah, I do. I do go on boats quite a bit. It was essentially the only place that I could find like a small amount for just, not pay like a ridiculous amount of money for like this huge amount of wild cherry bark. So essentially I grabbed a big old, so I'm just going to show you, this is it all mixed together. And I've got my I got my big old mason jar.
There'll be a picture of this on our socials.
Yes, it's a quart jar. Like my mother used to use to can things. I happen to have one sitting in my cupboard randomly. Witches love jars, y'all.
We really do.
Jars. We really love
jars and bottles.
Yes, jars and bottles. So I basically took all the ingredients and put them in this jar. And, I didn't have to chop anything. I didn't have to smash anything, or I just put everything in here.
You just had to open the vanilla beans, right? That's it?
I opened the vanilla beans and scraped them, and that was it. That was the only thing I had to do. I didn't even have to crush the cardamom pods because, like I said, I just used ground cardamom. Because I thought buying pods was a little ridiculous when I have so much cardamom, ground cardamom. I somehow ended up with like 3 bottles of it. I don't even know. So basically, you just kind of want to store this, put the lid on, store it in a cool, dry place once a day for 1 to 2 weeks. You give it a shake and kind of focus your intent on it. And then after 1 to 2 weeks, you strain the liquid through a cheesecloth. I clearly haven't done that yet. Or a fine mesh strainer into a dropper bottle or other bitters bottle. And you want to make sure to squeeze the cherries, squeeze the ingredients, get all the extract out. And then you can store these in a cool, dark place for up to a year, it says. because
Probably longer,
probably
but if it
longer.
lasts that long, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I would be too. Now I haven't tried this yet because
It's not ready.
yes, not ready. It's only been a week, so it says that if the mixture's too harsh, you can add like a teaspoon of simple syrup to sort of balance it out. But oh wow,
Well, and one thing you can do after a week, because it's going to take a while for it's going to be super alcohol forward
mm-hmm.
right away.
Yeah, yeah,
So after a week, start maybe giving it a little taste every day with
mm.
like Shay is doing with her straw right now, or you can use a eyedropper. I
This
mean,
is
I'm
this
okay.
is
What she is doing with her straw right now is not slurping it through the straw.
no no
She's
no.
doing the thing like put the straw in and put
Yeah,
your finger over the top, like the
yeah,
bartender straw. Not she's not
no,
slurping. I swear she's not slurping.
wow,
She's
that
definitely not slurping.
that is, whew, that's good. I'm gonna give it another week for sure. But this is surprisingly good, and I honestly, it would probably be even better if I'd used bourbon. So next time I make this, I'm gonna buy a bourbon, a less expensive bourbon, but it's still a good bourbon.
So
That's
for
really
your
good.
specific bitters, like what are
Yeah.
the magical properties of your bitters?
So the cherry is emotional balance and prosperity, while the wild cherry bark, as we talked about in our other podcasts, is for protection. So you got your protection, you got your emotional balance, you got your prosperity. And then vanilla, which vanilla has so much going on, but it's inner peace, good luck. They use it with money workings and personal empowerment. And then cardamom, I love cardamom. It's like my favorite spice. And it's about attracting love, prosperity, mental clarity, and it also acts as a powerful energetic protection tool. Like lots of protection in this. And then anise, anise, protection, luck, enhancing psychic abilities. There you go. So if you're going to play with any of that, and cleansing negativity. So I was like, when I was focusing on this, I was focusing on the balance, the protection, the peace, and then of course the prosperity.
We're prosperity witches here, y'all.
Yeah, we really are. We really are. So I do have a little video that I made of.
Check out our YouTube channel for
Yeah.
that short. You can find it on our Instagram reels.
Mm-hmm. And it
It'll
just
be
shows
there.
me putting it together. So you can watch. It's really not difficult. So that's why I say this is really easy. The most difficult part of this whole process was simply sourcing the materials without paying like $100 for like enormous amounts of things.
And
I will
also
say,
the waiting.
yeah, and it does because it doesn't take a lot. Like I think my recipe has the wild cherry bark for the bittering agent, and it only requires like 1.5 teaspoons. That's it. So you don't have to put a lot in there. But anyway, so yeah, that was. But I was able to source a simple recipe, and I can't wait to play more with bitters. So Amy, what bitter recipe did you try?
Well, I would like to say that in the script that
Mm-hmm.
Shéa wrote, it says Amy is a giant weirdo.
Did I?
Well, I said that. I mean,
Oh.
it says that in the script. I didn't write it there. Oh my god.
Where did I write Amy is
You
Jamie?
didn't.
Amy. No, I don't see that
I
anywhere
added
here.
that to the script. She printed it out before I made my edit.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
I printed the original version and she added later, so I didn't
Yeah,
realize.
so
you
now
said
there's
that.
like, I can't even pretend it was her. Later. So it says Amy is a giant weirdo. So I have so many plans, and I have a lot of cocktail spoons for these kind of projects. But unfortunately, my delivery of the gentian and gintona didn't arrive from Italy, where I ordered it. And because I can't have stuff shipped to me. I don't know what it is, but Portugal has like put a wall around me. Is like no stuff for you. So in my head, this was my plan. My plan was in bitters you have 3 main parts of bitters. You have your base,
Mm-hmm.
of your bitter. This is whatever flavor you want to showcase. And so I think probably for Shéa's, it's the cherry and the vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
That's her flavor showcases. And
Yep.
that's about 25% of your total volume. You have your highlight. Oh, actually, okay. For her base, it's cherry. I'm retconning this right now. The highlight botanical, which is your supporting cast, it lifts the profiles of your bitters and keeps it from being flat. And that includes things like dried citrus peel, coriander, vanilla,
Mm-hmm.
cinnamon, star anise, or anise, or whatever.
Yeah.
I call it star anise, but we
I
don't know
call
the
it
word.
star anise, but apparently some people call it anise. I don't know.
Well, we don't like those people, even if we're wrong. And that's another 25% or so of your total
Yeah.
volume. Then you
Okay.
have your bittering agent, and that's
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about the gentian root, but it also includes the cherry bark that Shéa would have used,
Mm-hmm.
any kind of medicinal digestive root barks,
Yeah.
wormwood, cinchona, gentian, and that's like the main bulk of your overall thing. It's the up to 50%. There can be a sweetening element if you
Mm-hmm.
need just something to cut it a little bit, and that's like agave, honey syrup, whatever. And then when you're done, you want to add some purified water to adjust your ABV, alcohol by volume, to about 40%.
Mm.
So those are your ingredients. So in my hat is what I have done. I have separate tinctures for each agent
Mm.
because I am a cocktail control freak now.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of little jars and a lot of little dropper jars and a lot of tinctures. And this is who I'm becoming as a person. I didn't say it was good, but this is who I
I love
am.
this.
So
I'm...
different jars for all of my stuff. You make your little tinctures. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
you have your whatever. I have hazelnut right now,
Ooh.
tincturing away. And then you start taste testing at about a week until it
Mm-hmm.
gets to where you want. And
Mm-hmm.
then once it's there, you strain out the agents and you're left with your liquid tincture.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have everything ready, you blend it.
Blend it.
So
Interesting.
that's where if I the control freak with a lot of cocktail spoons
Mm-hmm.
was making Shay's thing, I would make the cherry and the vanilla and the bitter and the cherry bark separate because now
Ah.
I'm a control freak. And then I
Okay.
would blend it once all the flavors were where I wanted them to be. And then I can
Ah.
add whatever sugar or sweeteners I want, and then the purified water to modify my ABV. However, this is imagination, Amy. This is real life Amy. Real life Amy didn't do any of that stuff. So who knows what real life Amy would actually do? She might just skip all those steps and put everything in a jar. What real life Amy did was make a cocktail.
I mean, fair.
And
With
my cocktail. Oh, are you going to say with bitters? Is that what you're going to say?
yeah, with potable bitters.
Oh, that's fun. So this is an Aperol and Amaretto sour.
Mm.
And the original recipe calls for Angostura bitters. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually even own bitters because I
Oh.
was so excited about all of this. And I'm like, it's okay, I'll just make my own. And then the closer we got to this episode, the more I realized I didn't have any of my own. And I had this whole plan that I was going to go get my own. But then I was like, oh, I'm too tired.
Mm.
And then, oh, it's not at the store. And then the place I'm like, for sure I will go get them today was not open. And so
Ah.
what I have here
Uh-huh.
is my Aperol and Amaretto sour with gin and Angostura bitters. And what it has in it is gin,
Mm-hmm.
Aperol,
Mm-hmm.
Amaretto,
Mm-hmm.
simple syrup,
Mm-hmm.
lemon juice,
Ah.
and what I don't have is 2 dashes of Angostura bitters.
Mm.
But what I do have is 2 dashes of a saline solution plus a tonic.
Seems legit.
And it's so good, y'all.
I mean, Aperol's pretty bitter. I mean, to
it
me,
is. Mm-hmm.
which is why I don't like it. It's too bitter. I like Pimm's because, particularly when you put it into a Pimm's cup, I've discovered I like that better. But I also like vermouth. I like sweet vermouth. I don't like dry vermouth.
When you can see, like, I think it's Emma Ham's episode
Mm-hmm.
where we talk about the Aperol spritz and
Right.
the vermouth spritz.
Yeah.
And I use tonic water because, in addition to the Aperol, the tonic has that quinine.
The quinine in it. Yes. So that made, so you've basically essentially sort of made that between the Aperol and the tonic, you've kind of got that vibe going on. Anyway, so
I was gonna lie and be like, no, no, I totally did it okay, and it's all
no,
fine.
it's more fun to like science the shit out of stuff. That's what I think.
And also, I can't lie to y'all. Like, I
No.
don't want to break trust.
Final thoughts. If you
Yes,
enjoy
ma'am.
kitchen witchery and cocktails as much as we do, or you're a medieval botanist,
Like,
or
I aspire to be.
which I assume that you do because you're listening to this podcast. So either you're into those things or you're very lost. Which, if you're lost, welcome.
Welcome.
One of us. One of. Then it's well worth it to try a simple bitters recipe for yourself and just see how you get on with it. You know, and if you do try, let us know. How'd it go?
Please let us
Did you-
know.
Was it tasty? Did you like it? Was it good in a cocktail? What cocktail did you make with it? What recipe did you try? We want to hear from you.
Drop a comment here. Send us a DM on Insta. You can email us at cliffhangersandcocktails@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Send pictures
Yes!
of your drinks.
We want to see pictures of your pretty
Or
bitty
your
drinks.
cats.
Or your cats. Cats are welcome. I like pictures of cats because cats are cool, but I can't have cats because I'm allergic. So I
All
like
pets are valuable here.
all pets are. We like all pets. Again, I have the same problem with dogs. Alan threatened to get a tarantula. I threatened.
I mean,
I threatened to bury him in the backyard. It's all good.
this isn't the first time she's mentioned burying him in the backyard. And y'all, I have not laid eyes on that man in 8 months.
Well, you've also lived in a foreign country for 8 months.
Not the point.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and be sure to check out our show notes for all the linky dinks, all the recipes, and don't forget to check out our little mini video on me making bitters,
And me making this cocktail.
and Amy making the cocktail. We have 2 videos. It's 2 separate videos, so check them both out. It's a fun little video that you do. I like it. Smash that like button.
Share, subscribe, comment.
And we will see you next time right here on Cliffhangers and Cocktails. Bye!
Bye.